You might immediately think of cute, fluffy creatures and their adoring mothers when you hear the word pups. However, the reality of pregnant and postpartum female behavior can be vastly different, ranging from neglecting to killing their young, or doing something even worse. You might wonder, can it get any worse? Unfortunately, yes. This type of behavior is observed in adorable domestic hamsters, pigs, our beloved dolphins, hippos, and others. The idea of being cruel to one's own offspring may seem strange to us as humans, who generally give the best of everything to our children. Nonetheless, it's quite common in animals. Brace yourself for what's coming, because it will leave you surprised, shocked, and even tearful. Today, you'll discover new facets of some well-known animals. We're unveiling our new compilation, The Worst Animal Parents. Remember, hitting the like button and subscribing are great ways to express your appreciation and let YouTube know you find this video interesting. Stay tuned, we're about to dive in. First on our list are animals whose mating period involves a lot of scratching, fighting, and just a whole lot of pain in general. These are the world's largest carnivorous marsupials, living in Australia, Tasmanian devils. Many know them from the Looney Tunes cartoon featuring the Tasmanian devil, Taz. In reality, they are stocky creatures with coarse brown or black fur and a tough demeanor. Their long front legs and shorter back legs give them an awkward gait. They can grow up to 76 centimeters, 30 inches in length, and weigh as much as 12 kilograms, 26 pounds. With their sharp teeth and powerful jaws, Tasmanian devils can deliver the most powerful bite relative to body mass among mammals. 14 kilograms, 30 pounds of force per square centimeter, 0.4 inches. That's even more than hyenas. A Tasmanian devil can crush its victim's spine or skull with just one bite. During the mating season, males and females have rather ludicrous battles. They behave extremely aggressively. They could be biting and scratching each other for days. Males try to prevent the females from leaving the den by biting and scratching. And if the male wants to leave, for instance to drink, he will have to take the female with him to ensure fidelity. Both female and male devils are not exactly monogamous. Tasmanian devils typically mate in March and are ready to give birth by April. Males can have up to 16 offspring in their 8-year lifetime, while females average up to 12. But why are Tasmanian devils on our list of the worst parents? You'll now find out why. The reason is that newborns are immediately faced with a real deadly battle. The female gives birth to 30 to 40 devil babies, but there are only 4 teats in her pouch. Therefore, only those who reach them first will survive. The rest will die. However, those that survive remain in the pouch until the end of winter. The mother devils treat them more kindly. Initially, they spend about 4 full months with her. Around August, she begins leaving them alone in the den, returning only to feed them. It's not unusual for her to carry the babies on her back rather than in her pouch. After 4 to 5 months in the den, when they've gained some weight, the young devils are evicted in December or January to become independent. That's the kind of Hunger Games they play from the very first day of life. So the next time your parents say something that makes your eyes roll, keep in mind that at least you're not one of the dozens of Tasmanian devil babies fighting for survival. Did we say Tasmanian devils are among the worst parents? But they're angels compared to pigs. Here's where things get really rough. Between 8 to 10% of piglets perish due to their sow mothers, either through accidental crushing or deliberate violence. What does this mean? Pigs practice cannibalism, eating their own offspring, or that of other pigs. This behavior has been observed in both domestic pigs and wild boars, even under laboratory conditions, but it's especially common in sows. Of course, they don't always do this, but sometimes a pig attacks her piglets, biting their face, neck, and body so severely that they die. After that, she may eat their remains, but then she may also become ill. Why does a pig do this? Researchers point out several possible reasons. First, young, inexperienced mothers are more likely to harm their piglets compared to sows who have previously given birth. Only 1.22% of experienced sows killed one or more of their piglets, while such behavior was observed in 3.4% of young mother pigs. Second reason, aggression and cannibalism are more prevalent in environments housing only first-time mother pigs, as opposed to mixed age groups. Third, restless pigs more often attack their young. Additionally, during childbirth, frequent position changes can make it difficult for them to lie down without endangering the piglets. Fourth reason, exposure to noise and disturbances before farrowing increases the likelihood of aggression. Therefore, the less people interact with and disturb the sow, the less likely she is to attack her offspring. Fifth, confined spaces intensify aggression toward piglets. In a cramped pen, the sow is more likely to shove and bite. Sixth reason, maternal rage can be exacerbated by hormonal fluctuations. For example, sows with high levels of estradiol before and after farrowing may be aggressive. Stressed sows also have abnormally high, or conversely, insufficient levels of oxytocin. Seventh, overweight pigs, which often have more complicated farrowing experiences, are more prone to aggressive behavior. Finally, the eighth reason, sows exhibit more aggression in larger litters, especially those with a higher proportion of female piglets. Moreover, a sow often accidentally crushes her piglets. This usually happens when she has just become a mother and is experiencing severe stress, considering that she weighs about 227 kilograms, 500 pounds, and a piglet just over 1.8 kilograms, 4 pounds. The weight difference is over 100 times. And shockingly, some sows consume their crushed piglets, which many scientists believe is an instinctual behavior to clean the pen. If you thought our previous examples were poor candidates for Mother of the Year award, wait till you hear about seals. It's true that seals exhibit intense maternal affection, but it's short-lived, lasting merely about 12 days. During this period, the mother seal devotes herself to feeding her young, often neglecting her own food. The mother ensures her baby's diet is rich enough for it to gain the necessary fat, with her milk being 50% fat. On such an enriched diet, newborn seal pups gain about 2 kilograms, 4.4 pounds per day. This totals to about 24 kilograms, 52.8 pounds over the feeding period. But once the milk ends, so does the mother's love. The exhausted female leaves, abandoning her offspring. You might think, like other animals, seal pups are ready for independent life by this point. But that's not the case. For the next month and a half, they remain alone on the ice, vulnerable and without food. This harsh existence causes the pup to lose half of its body weight. Unfortunately, it has no resources to regain it. At around 8 weeks, they are finally ready to swim and hunt on their own. But keep in mind, before reaching this milestone, they must survive hunger, avoid predators, and not drown in melting ice. The survival rate is bleak, with about 30% of seal pups perishing within their first year. However, weaning is not the only time when a mother seal might abandon her pup. In fact, something as seemingly benign as a selfie can lead to maternal abandonment. Marine mammal experts urge people not to touch or pick up seal pups found on beaches or coastlines. They're often resting there or simply waiting for their hunting mothers. The problem is that adult seals may reject offspring that have interacted with humans. Therefore, it's advised not only to avoid touching the seal pups, but even to refrain from approaching them closely, as this could cost them their lives. Even if you think you can take a quick selfie and no one will see it, know that the mother might be watching from the waves. And if she sees you, or for example, your dog near her baby, she will most likely decide it's unsafe to return and abandon it. Without the mother, the seal pup has a slim chance of survival. Additionally, if you approach too closely, it may frighten the pup and alter its behavior. And pets, especially dogs, can injure it or be injured by adult seals. So keep in mind that your selfie may take only a few seconds, but it could doom the seal pup to a slow death from starvation. Now, let's look at how cute hamsters are. Those creatures are known for their wheel-running antics and endearing cheek-stuffing abilities. At first glance, you wouldn't think they share anything with pigs, but you might have already guessed what they have in common. Occasionally, these creatures eat their own offspring. This behavior may be observed directly or inferred from the mysterious disappearance of the young. And you might wonder, where are they? Alas, they have already been eaten by their own mother. Female hamsters begin preparations for their offspring by constructing a nest. They use tissues, paper towels, shredded paper, and bedding material from their cage. Sometimes they even store food inside or around the nest. The pregnancy lasts about 3 weeks, and then up to 20 babies appear in the cage overnight. If you didn't suspect your hamster was pregnant, this can be quite a surprise. One of the clues that she is expecting might be that the hamster starts eating more, although her diet remains the same. So, what drives a hamster who has meticulously prepared for her offspring to act so drastically? Firstly, it's about stress. Pregnancy, childbirth, feeding, and caring for several babies may overwhelm any animal and cause excessive stress. If the animal feels that caring for the offspring is more than it can handle, it will kill and eat its progeny. This is more common in young hamsters or those disturbed too much during the day. Secondly, fear may play a role. For instance, humans, other pets, or loud noises can prompt a mother hamster to consume her babies. Thirdly, scent. A mother hamster spends a lot of time cleaning and caring for her babies. She recognizes them by their scent. But if a baby has a new scent, like that of a human, the mother might get confused and not recognize it. Due to this change, she may kill and eat those she perceives as imposters. Another common reason is a lack of food. Any pregnant or nursing animal uses more energy than usual. Perhaps the hamster is simply hungry and fears she won't be able to provide for her offspring. Finally, the mother hamster might feel overwhelmed and incapable of caring for all the babies, especially if it's a large litter. She then eats part of the offspring. It doesn't seem merciful, but this is her way of trying to help the remaining ones survive. So, if you have hamsters, create a quiet and calm environment where your hamster can nest and care for her offspring. Check the babies, but don't touch them, at least in their first week of life, and provide the hamster with plenty of food. Pregnancy in hamsters causes stress, though it lasts less than a month. Imagine how overwhelming an 11-month pregnancy might be, specifically lasting 340 days. That's the case with horses. Only women who have been pregnant can appreciate how long that really is. Mares exhibit unique behavior during pregnancy. Upon conception, they start mingling with every stallion in the herd and mating with each one. This might seem illogical, since the evolutionary goal has already been achieved. However, it's more complicated than it seems. Stallions are aggressive toward foals that aren't theirs because they dislike conception. They can fatally injure a baby. But if they believe the foal is theirs, they are much likelier not to harm it. So by acting in this unusual way, the mother horse throws male horses off the track and protects her offspring. But why are stallions so radical? It's important to understand that a stallion's reproductive success is due to his strong genes. By becoming a father, he acts, to some extent, against his own interests, as he spends a lot of time guarding his mares from potential threats. In other words, it's crucial for a stallion to be certain that the offspring he's raising is his own. Now, imagine if he ends up raising someone else's foals. In other words, he's simply spending time and energy protecting those who don't carry his genes and will become his future competitors. That's why stallions have developed such a drastic strategy against competitors' young. But what if a mare can't mate with other stallions when the time comes? She has a plan B for that. She can terminate the pregnancy because she senses that the foal would potentially be in danger. Scientists aren't exactly sure how this happens. It might be the result of a chemical process. However, there are rare instances when a mare rejects her newborn. She may walk away from it, ignore it, deny it milk, or in extreme cases, kick, bite, or even kill it. This behavior is observed in first-time mothers, those separated from their newborns due to illness or injury, or those who have previously rejected their foals for some reason. It's crucial for the mare to feed the foal with her milk during the first few hours after birth, as her colostrum contains antibodies essential for the young's health in the first weeks of life. To facilitate feeding, a mare might be placed behind barriers to prevent kicking. Farmers would distract her with grain or give her mild tranquilizers to reduce aggression. Now, let's move on to some formidable-looking parents, the hippos. Typically, female hippos give birth to one calf every 2 years. The calves can swim from birth and weigh between 25 to 54 kilograms, 55 to 119 pounds. But of course, hippo mothers still diligently protect them. Female hippos usually isolate themselves from the herd to give birth, then slowly reintroduce their calf to the herd when they feel ready. Collectively, the herd can better protect the calves from crocodiles, hyenas, or lions. It usually consists of 10 to 15 individuals. However, sometimes living in a herd leads to unexpected tragedies, like the one that took place in Hwange National Park in Zimbabwe. There, a mother hippo was feeding her 2-day-old calf away from the herd. A tragedy struck when she decided to introduce him to the others. We're now giving a viewer discretion warning for the more sensitive viewers, as the following content might be particularly disturbing. When you think of hippos, you might picture these massive animals with cute ear tips and bulging eyes, lazily lounging in the water. But sometimes they commit infanticide. This is believed to occur due to overcrowding and disease. It can also happen when adult males perceive male calves as a threat to their dominance. In Hwange Park, the mother didn't keep her 2-day-old calf away, and it got too close to the herd. Then, without any apparent reason, the mother started to back away. Several adult individuals cornered her on one side of the waterhole, while about 7 others approached the calf. Before the witnesses could react, the adult hippos attacked the calf and tore it apart. Its remains were snatched up by a crocodile. This wild scene traumatized even seasoned wildlife enthusiasts. More often, hippos are so protective of their offspring that they attack people who come too close to their water bodies or drive other hippos out of the herd. Another dangerous period for hippo calves is the mating season. During this time, males actively compete for female attention. Preoccupied with their calves, female hippos often reject males, which can provoke them to target the calves to get to their mothers. They have no trouble catching up to the young and injuring them. Of course, the mother hippo will do everything possible to protect her calf, but she is often powerless in these situations. However, in rare cases, the female can successfully defend her offspring. What do you think of these persistent suitors? Now, let's turn our attention to land. Imagine how you would feel if your mother stopped caring for you when you were a child and gave all her attention to your brother or sister just because they were stronger. It's precisely this type of behavior that earned adorable pandas a spot on our worst animal parent list. Pandas often give birth to twins, and their offspring are born tiny, weighing approximately 85 to 140 grams, about 3 to 5 ounces. This is about 0.07% of the mother's weight, making them the smallest newborns relative to their mothers among all mammals. An adult panda is at least 700 times heavier than its newborn. To put this into perspective, human mothers are usually 20 times heavier than their newborns, and orcas are about 50 times heavier. Marsupials are the only mammals with smaller newborns, and that's because their offspring continue developing in their mother's pouch. For instance, a newborn red kangaroo weighs about 0.00001% of its mother's weight. But let's get back to panda cubs. Researchers aren't exactly sure why they are born so tiny and have underdeveloped skeletons. Pandas' short gestation period of just 1 month is likely related to their nutrient-low bamboo diet. Instead of expending a huge amount of energy on growing the fetus, female pandas focus on producing fatty milk to nourish their babies. Newborn pandas are extremely tiny and can hardly move, let alone defend themselves. Moreover, they look nothing like what you might expect. They are born pink, wrinkled, and hairless. Moreover, they have no black and white patches. It's only within the first 48 hours after birth that their skin begins to grow white fur, followed by black markings around the eyes and across the body. They are fully furred by about 3 weeks. Why did we give all those details? To help you understand what it's like to care for such a helpless being, even just one. We're not excusing pandas, but these mothers spend 80% of their time holding their cubs. They constantly press them to their bodies to aid feeding and stimulate their bodily functions. For the first 3 months after giving birth, they do almost nothing but care for their babies. During this period, a mother's life revolves solely around her cubs, and she often forgoes food and water. So, while their babies gain weight, their mothers starve. The challenge arises when a panda mother, particularly a young and inexperienced one, is faced with raising 2 cubs at once. So when one becomes stronger, they shift all their attention to it, neglecting the weaker one. In managed environments like national parks, staff employ techniques like periodically swapping the cubs to ensure that both of them receive maternal care and nourishment. So why do pandas behave in such a seemingly irresponsible way? Because they don't want to risk their own lives or the lives of their offspring and choose the one more likely to survive. This is the harsh reality. Now, let's look up at the sky and focus on the avian world above us. When you think of the worst bird mother, you'll probably think of the cuckoo. This bird has rightly earned such a reputation. Cuckoos delegate their parental duties to others. How? The bird secretly lays its eggs in the nests of other species, which then raise the cuckoo chicks alongside their own. This behavior is known as brood parasitism. Moreover, the cuckoo eats or pushes an egg out of the host nest to make room for its own. Then the parent bird exerts tremendous efforts in raising the chicks, including the imposter. Meanwhile, the cuckoo can live a carefree life, relieved of its parental duties. While this strategy may seem advantageous, only about 1% of birds in nature engage in such behavior. And what about the foster children? Do they live in clover? Not really. When a cuckoo chick grows up, they may face an identity crisis. For instance, how would you know who you are if your adoptive parents, brothers, and sisters were crows? And would you be able to make the same sounds as your new family? Chicks learn singing, feeding, social behavior, and migration routes from their parents. These skills aren't innate and can't be acquired from foster parents. Thus, cuckoo chicks have to adapt. Now imagine a cuckoo was raised by crows, choosing a crow as a mate, assuming the latter agrees. Their union can't produce offspring or hybrids. Interestingly, cuckoos only mate with other cuckoos, which suggests that they know their true identity. However, the cuckoo chick is in danger even at the stage of an egg. The host bird of the nest can recognize the imposter and simply throw the foreign egg out. To minimize this risk, cuckoos have evolved to lay eggs that closely mimic those of the host bird. Interestingly, the male has no influence on their color. He doesn't know which nest the female would choose for her egg. So evolution ensured that all the camouflage depends on the female. For example, the pale blue cuckoo eggs are almost identical to those of the redstart, in whose nests they are laid. However, there are curious exceptions. With dunnocks, cuckoos seem not to bother at all. They lay white, brown speckled eggs among blue ones and still go unnoticed. Do you think the cuckoo's mischief ends there? Not at all. After choosing a nest, the bird observes it for a while to precisely time the laying of eggs. If she does it too early, the chicks will hatch prematurely. And if she does it too late, the cuckoo may resort to drastic measures, like destroying the host's entire clutch to introduce a new brood. Actually, a cuckoo can lay up to 50 eggs in different nests. Remarkably, just 2 weeks after feathering, her chicks can become twice as large as their foster mother. Indeed, cuckoos specialize in smaller birds. Our next subject shows us that birds can behave even more harshly. Human mothers with more than one child often intervene to stop fights or conflicts between their children. However, in the avian world, the response to sibling rivalry may be so drastically different that we would hardly consider it normal. This is the case with black eagles. The principle of survival of the fittest strongly applies to these birds. We're used to the idea of interspecies competition in the animal kingdom, but intraspecies competition exists too, for limited resources and consequently survival and the chance to reproduce. The Verreaux eagle is a prime example. These birds inhabit the mountains of northeastern Africa and the Middle East. They are almost entirely black, except for their yellow legs and beak. Adult individuals can reach over 60 centimeters, 2 feet in length, with a wingspan ranging from 150 to 180 centimeters, about 5 to 6 feet. Their diet includes small mammals such as squirrels and bats, as well as their fellow avians. Sometimes this includes an entire nest of eggs and chicks. Why did they end up on our list of worst parents? Verreaux eagles lay only 2 eggs annually in their nest, usually situated on a ledge. The hatching of the first chick typically means death for the second, as the older sibling will start attacking the younger one with the mother's tacit approval. Numerous recorded observations show instances of older chicks pecking their siblings over 1,000 times within the first 3 days of life. Now imagine this level of aggression. In a study of 200 Verreaux eagle nests, only one case was found where both chicks survived. This bird behavior has evolved due to the limited space in the nest and the scarcity of food. And what about the parents? Faced with limited resources, they allow such behavior because they know not all chicks will survive anyway. It also saves their energy by reducing the number of mouths to feed. Moreover, after the death of the second chick, the eagle and elder chick may eat its remains. What a harsh school of life. The younger chick is doomed from the start. The female Verreaux eagle begins incubating her first egg immediately, laying the second one only 3 to 4 days later. Consequently, the first chick hatches several days before the second and gains strength before its rival's arrival, ready for the inevitable confrontation. Thus, such fratricide and sororicide occur among large birds with complex hunting behavior, extended learning periods in early life, long lifespans, and low reproductive rates. These birds typically care for their chicks over extended periods, and the chicks are equipped with a potent natural weapon from a young age, a sharp beak. For example, an African Verreaux eagle chick does not fully feather for 95 days or longer. You might ask, why lay 2 eggs if only one chick will survive anyway? The second egg serves as guarantee for the mother should anything happen to the first one. Now, let's dive into the ocean depths to look at those who can view the tragic fate of their offspring with cold blood. Our first marine creatures to explore are the sharks. We're used to thinking of sharks as bloodthirsty predators. As it turns out, they are not any gentler with their own young. And it's not surprising, given that they once faced a serious trial of intrauterine cannibalism. There are 2 types of this phenomenon in sharks. The first is oophagy, which means egg consumption. A pregnant female shark continues to lay eggs long after mating to support her future offspring. How come? She feeds them these eggs, which are consumed by the developing embryos. But let's try to defend the shark here. This isn't exactly cannibalism, as the eggs are unfertilized. Does the horror end there? Actually, it has barely even started, because we'll now move on to the second type of cannibalism, embryophagy. This phenomenon was discovered by biologist Stuart Springer in 1948. Here's what he found. A female shark can carry up to 20 embryos, 10 in each of her 2 uteri. Imagine that. Some shark species have 2 uteri. However, they give birth to just 2 live offspring, 1 from each uterus. Embryos hatch within the first uterus at about 5 to 6 centimeters, 2 to 2.4 inches long. By then, they are armed with sharp teeth and know how to use them. But only when they reach about 10 centimeters, approximately 4 inches, do they begin hunting, consuming not only unfertilized eggs, but also unhatched shark pups and smaller, weaker embryos. The most intense stage occurs when an embryo reaches 23 to 34 centimeters, 9 to 13 inches, at which point it eliminates all competitors, its potential brothers and sisters. Consequently, only the strongest, most aggressive pups survive the 9 to 12 months in the mother's womb. Genes play a significant role here. Shark embryos come from different fathers. In 60% of cases, the surviving offspring are full siblings from the same father. Therefore, competition and natural selection occur even after fertilization. Interestingly, embryos have another talent. Studies have shown that they can swim from one uterus to the other destroying their rivals from other fathers wherever they may be. Now, is this a womb or a fight club? What's the result of such behavior? Shark pups are born larger than if they had shared the space with other embryos. Thanks to a rich diet, they are also heavier and have a crucial competitive advantage. They know how to hunt and consume prey. Thus, offspring come from only the strongest males. But the struggle doesn't end at birth. It's encoded in shark DNA to survive at all costs. Therefore, shark pups may still consume their weaker siblings. What's even worse, even the mother shark might eat her own offspring. For instance, this might happen in cases of limited resources. It's no wonder that after such a brutal start in life, sharks continue to prey on each other even in adulthood. Now, let's turn our attention to the next subjects. Dolphins. These are known as particularly friendly creatures, so it's hard to believe they might be hiding some dark secret. However, they too have their dubious aspects. They don't always act like Flipper, the miraculous dolphin who befriends and rescues humans in the eponymous TV series. In fact, they might behave very differently. Off the coast of Scotland, a scientist shockingly observed for nearly an hour as an adult dolphin repeatedly grabbed a calf in its mouth and slammed it against the water until it disappeared from view. In a separate study off the coast of Virginia, researchers found 9 deceased dolphin calves with severe injuries, including broken ribs, skulls, and spines. One of the bodies bore bite marks consistent with those of an adult dolphin. Finally, a research team from Japan witnessed the enigmatic behavior behind these incidents. It all happened in Matsu Bay in Japan. Drawn by distant splashing, the researchers discovered about 10 dolphins, 4 of whom, including at least one male, were targeting a calf. These attackers rammed it with their heads and tossed it into the air. The dolphins frequently cornered and pushed the calf down, seemingly trying to drown it. The young dolphin had visible bite marks. After 54 minutes of this coordinated attack, another group arrived, not to rescue the victim, but to take over the attack. As you remember, we warned you that this video contains some shocking content. The first group retreated, and the second attacked even more aggressively. This could mean that the second group was dominant, or that the first one was tired. In just 75 minutes, the baby dolphin received 115 blows. Amid this chaos, one dolphin, presumably the mother, tirelessly attempted to keep the calf afloat and chase off the attackers. Scientists don't know how it ended, but we hope for the best. Why do dolphins do this? These mammals give birth only once every 2 to 4 years, and their offspring remain dependent on their mothers for a considerable period. This can create tension among males. It's no coincidence that half of the attackers are male. Therefore, a male may kill a non-related or even his own calf to end the mother dolphin's lactation period. This makes her ready to mate again. In the case of Matsu Bay, the situation was exacerbated by the fact that the female and the calf were alone. Normally, female dolphins travel in groups with their offspring. As a result, the aggressively inclined dolphins had an opportunity to attack. Also, female dolphins sometimes behave like horses. We don't mean to say they neigh and stomp their hooves, but they have a similar mating strategy. They mate with many males from different groups, so none know who the father of the calf is. This reduces the likelihood of the calf being killed. So remember the dolphin's smile and know that it does not always signify friendliness. Now let's take a look at our next subjects. The red land crabs, found on Christmas Island and the Keeling Islands. Every year from October to December, 50 million of these crabs migrate from the jungle to the coast to lay their eggs in the sea. How many eggs can they lay? A dozen? 100? Actually, each female lays about 100,000 eggs. They do this once a month during high tides and the last phase of the moon. Contrary to what one might expect, they don't have a nurturing relationship with their offspring. On the contrary, they are quite fierce. The hatched crablings spend their first month at sea. In the most favorable scenario, the tide carries them back to the island. This looks like a red, living army emerging from the water. And here, the little crabs can meet their fate. For instance, pregnant female crabs migrating later during the tide might encounter their month-old offspring. By the way, for most of the year, the crabs live in burrows they dig in the jungle. During the dry season, they close the entrance to the burrow to keep it moist inside. So what do pregnant females do when they meet the young? Do they help the offspring reach home, filled with maternal love? Actually, they do this. Can you believe your own eyes? An adult crab cracks open shellfish like nuts. One claw is smaller than the other because it was lost and regrew. Do you think there's something exceptional here? Actually, pregnant female crabs often eat their young. Moreover, if they are hungry, they can swallow several of their own children. Compared to the offspring, mother crabs are huge, so they can eat dozens of little crabs in one sitting. The diameter of the latter is only about 5 millimeters, 0.2 inches. Crabs that have recently laid eggs usually eat about 25 to 30% of their own larvae. The question is, why do crabs do this? Are they angry or crazy? Don't they realize what they're doing? Actually, it's much more down to earth. They're simply hungry. Yep, when mothers are hungry, they use this immediately available food source. However, this does not affect the crab population due to the vast number of offspring. Naturally, another question arises. If there are so many crabs, why haven't they taken over the world yet? The thing is, only 1 or 2 individuals from each brood survive. This is natural selection at its finest. In the next wet season, the crabs will again leave the jungle to start the annual breeding cycle. Males are the first ones to arrive at the beach. Once at the shore, they dig burrows and defend themselves from other males. Females arrive later to produce offspring in the burrows and release it when the time comes. Crabs live for about 20 to 30 years, reaching sexual maturity at the age of 4 to 5 years. Now, let's leave the crabs behind and move on. What do people do when their children don't want to leave the house they grew up in? They gently encourage them by giving hints. And what do fish known as sand gobies, or scientifically Pomatoschistus minutus, do in the same situation? If you've made it this far into the video, you might have already guessed what. They eat them. In the animal kingdom, it's often the females that care for the young. However, in the case of sand gobies, it's the fathers who take on this mission. And they usually eat up to 1/3 of the potential offspring. This behavior might leave us puzzled, especially given the time and energy animals spend on producing offspring, which is meant to inherit their genes. Apart from eating their young, male sand gobies are generally good fathers. In fact, without them, the eggs would be completely vulnerable. But why do they resort to cannibalism? You might think they're hungry. However, scientists have found that sand gobies eat a lot of eggs, even when food is abundant. But it turns out that they don't just eat any eggs, but selectively consume specific eggs. If you want to know which ones, we need to look at the fish's mating behavior. First, male sand gobies mate with 2 females, then simultaneously care for both egg clutches. Eggs from one of the females are larger and take longer to hatch. It's these eggs that the males prefer to eat. Presumably, they do this to reduce the time spent on parental care, so they can go back to the mating game in no time. Is the burden of raising young that heavy? A male sand goby has to care for thousands of eggs until they hatch. He often cleans the nest and fans oxygen toward the eggs. You might think that it takes several months, but actually, it's just 1 to 2 weeks. But the sand goby doesn't want to wait even that long because he could be back in the game, attracting new females. As a result, he can produce several broods over a long summer. So eating eggs allows him to increase the total number of offspring he produces during the mating season. Other possible reasons for this behavior include eliminating weaker offspring and supplementing their diet. For example, it's noted that smaller males are more prone to eat the entire clutch than larger ones, which is why scientists believe they have a greater need for nutrients from eggs. Also, if their strength for survival and protecting offspring wanes, sand gobies might consume the eggs to replenish resources for subsequent mating attempts. While the sand goby eats larger and younger eggs, the common goby eats just the younger eggs, as they have less value. After all, he has already invested time in the more developed ones. Therefore, eating them would mean losing investments. The younger eggs are also more nutritious for the male. Therefore, the way the male selects the eggs is closely linked to adaptation. But it's not just some mammals, birds, and fish that fall short of being perfect parents. Some insects do too. Take, for instance, the Dracula ants. The name itself suggests that blood and jaws get in the way of their parent-child relationship. Indeed, the offspring of this ant species have a tough time. Dracula ants of the Mystrium genus live in different places of the world, from Madagascar and Central Africa through Southeast Asia to Australia. They have the fastest, most unusual, and most powerful mandibles, or jaws, which they use in no less unusual ways. They capture and transport food, defend themselves, stun prey, dissect it, and then transport it to the desired location. Presumably, they also use jaws to escape danger. By pressing their jaws against the ground and snapping them shut, ants can propel themselves backward. In almost all species, jaws open and close due to muscular strength. The jaw mechanism resembles finger snapping. By tightly pressing the tips of the middle fingers and thumbs together, we gradually increase muscular tension until they finally part, releasing a short burst of the stored energy. The same principle applies to the ant's jaws. Do you remember when we said they are very fast? With a speed of 90 meters per second, 295 feet per second, their snap is the fastest biological action ever recorded. That's 1,000 times faster than a finger snap, or 5,000 times faster than the blink of an eye. And it's this explosive movement that helps Dracula ants capture prey and feed their larvae. You might think, finally, a normal example of parental care. But you'd be wrong, at least when it comes to the behavior of the ant queen, which is far from ideal. Queens in larger colonies feed exclusively on, brace yourself, the blood or hemolymph of their larvae. Even with readily available prey, they prefer larval hemolymph. The process involves the queen gently stroking the larva, picking it up, then carefully piercing its skin with her jaws and sucking out a drop of hemolymph. But what about the larva? Do they die? Surprisingly, this feeding method isn't lethal to the larva, though it does impede their growth. Why do queens behave this way? Ants often feed and exchange food through regurgitation. But unlike more advanced social ants, worker Dracula ants don't feed their queens or each other in this way. Instead, only larvae are fed by regurgitation, and the queens are fed through the larva. Why don't they eat other food? perhaps because digesting larval blood is more energy efficient. This way, the queen can focus on her most important mission, laying eggs. But queens aren't the only ones who feed on larval blood. In some cases, other ants also partake in this dark deed, especially when colonies go without food for extended periods. In this case, larvae are used as a food reserve. So hunger has no mercy. Don't ask for more than a mom can give. This motto perfectly applies to burying beetles, or more precisely, to their larvae. If you're eating something, you might want to set it aside before continuing watching. Burying beetles are small insects that lay their eggs on the carcasses of dead small vertebrates, like mice and birds. When their babies hatch, the mothers swallow pieces of the carcass, digest them, and then put the resulting delicacy into the mouths of their hungry offspring. How do they know they're hungry? The larvae signal their hunger by touching the mother's mouth with their tiny legs. But what if there's not enough meal for everyone? The larvae do this every time the mother approaches. Imagine how irritating this must be. The mother beetle thinks so too. In moments of exasperation, she resorts to eating her most annoying kids. Scientists even conducted a series of experiments with different age groups of larvae, changing various conditions. The results were consistent. Excessive begging often leads to unfortunate outcomes for overly insistent babies. Those who ask only when truly hungry are more likely to survive, not those who hog the mother's attention and eat more than their siblings. It is their way of resolving parent-child conflict. What's the result of such strict discipline? The larvae learn to behave more appropriately around their mother and avoid pestering her. You might wonder when they actually ask for food. For this, mother beetles have developed a special framework. While human moms simply call their kids to dinner, female burying beetles release a pheromone called 2-phenoxyethanol. This chemical message gathers the brood. Scientists discovered it while studying all the fluids and gases emitted by the beetle during the feeding process. In a subsequent experiment, scientists exposed larvae to paper soaked in 2-phenoxyethanol. As expected, they raised the front ends of their bodies, begging for food. This strict regimen is essential, considering that the mother beetle feeds her offspring as frequently as 3 times per hour. By the way, some reptiles are not the best parents either. Now, let's delve into the world of snakes and see why they are on our list. They might surprise you with their parenting practices. Did you know that there are about 3,900 snake species worldwide? Although they are quite diverse, they share one specific feature: egg laying. The breeding times generally vary depending on the snake species and habitat. For example, in the southern hemisphere, the mating season falls in September and October, while northern hemisphere snakes lay eggs in early summer from June to July. The exact incubation period also depends on the snake species, but takes on average 57 days. Some snakes hatch after 40 days, while others only after 70. Their eggs are elongated, allowing the developing snake to stretch inside the egg. The size of the egg ranges from 2.5 to 13 centimeters, about 1 to 5 inches. For instance, the pine snake lays the largest eggs in the USA, measuring 12.7 centimeters, 5 inches in length, and 5 centimeters, 2 inches in width. In contrast, the eggs of the eastern brown snake are about 2 inches long. The color of the eggs is the same across all species: white, off-white, or beige. Unlike bird eggs, snake eggs aren't hard. They have a flexible, leathery surface and often adhere to each other. Small snakes lay between 2 to 3 to 30 eggs. Larger snakes, like a reticulated python, can lay over 100. Most snakes don't build nests for their eggs. Instead, they seek tight spaces, such as under rocks, ledges, or in abandoned animal burrows. The important thing is that the place is protected from prying eyes and bad weather. You might think this means snakes are good mothers. Alas, that's where the snake's care ends, because many snakes leave the clutch as soon as it's ready. This means that most snake babies never see their mothers. Statistically, no more than 3% of all snake species show care for their offspring. Fortunately, young snakes can survive on their own immediately after hatching. Additionally, some viviparous snakes gestate and give birth to offspring like mammals. They disappear as soon as the last baby emerges. There are also ovoviviparous snakes, whose young hatch inside the mother's body before birth. Of course, there are some exceptions. For instance, a female African rock python stays with her offspring for about 2 weeks after hatching. And female South African pythons take care of their eggs for 3 months, not eating or drinking, but occasionally basking in the sun to transfer their warmth to the offspring. As a result, they may need several years to fully recover from parenting. Yet, still, most snake species are indifferent to their offspring's fate. Abandoned eggs are easy prey for raccoons, skunks, and hawks, as are newly hatched snakes. So, as you can see, all animals have their parenting models, and some of them can be quite shocking. Alongside care, attention, and responsibility, animals can show indifference, negligence, and even cruelty to their offspring.